What is up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I'm your host, the bald, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin, and we are brought to you live up in this bitch by Multi-Continental Wrestling Alliance on Facebook and on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram if you type in MWA World. We are worldwide, baby! And tonight I have a very special guest. He's an Australian professional wrestler named Rhys Angel. And before I bring out Rhys, I need to take a quick moment, a quick pause, a quick second to thank those people that helped me keep the lights on up in this place. And that is my lovely sponsors. First up is A-Rock Designs. Now, A-Rock Designs is that company you are seeing all over the wrestling Facebook groups, pages, people sharing. They make custom cups, tumblers, t-shirts, keychains, you name it, they make it. They made me this custom CM Punk tumbler, which I absolutely love because I'm a huge Punk mark, but still have not put beer in this cup. I can't do it. Don't know why, just can't do it. Next up is Signal Studios. So Signal Studios is a recording studio based here in Sydney, Australia. But they can mix, master, and send music out anywhere in the world. So if you're an independent professional wrestler, you want something new, you want something fresh to walk out to the ring with, hit up Rafi Tomasian from Signal Studios, and he will hook you up with the sickest beat that will match your personality. Or if you're a musician and you want some music to write some songs to, your girl just left you and you want to put that shit down and be like, baby! I promise I won't do that again. But guys, whatever you need music-wise, Signal Studios can hook it up. If you're a musician and you're in Sydney, around West Ryde, and you need a place to jam, a place to rehearse, a place to record your amazing music, you can head down to Signal Studios. Pardon me. They have the most comfortable, relaxing setup that you will ever find to get your creative juices flowing. But guys, without further ado, I'm not going to leave him waiting any longer. I can see him in the back. He's hype, he's pumped, he's excited to be here. He is Rhys Angel. What's up, brother?
I'm good, mate. How you going?
Mate, I'm doing pretty good. I'm a little bit excited. You know, it's getting close to Christmas, and you know, I'm feeling pretty pumped, man. How about you? What's been happening?
Mate, just coming off a high of just having a show on the weekend, and just around this time of year, Christmas, it's just getting to the end of the year, so you're starting to feel it's time to, like, you're about to start winding down, but we still got one more show left, and I think then we'll have a little bit of a break and then get ready for next year.
Man, I tell you, that show that you just mentioned on Saturday, I was in attendance for that, and good God, that was a fucking show and a half, man. Like that was amazing. You were in a pretty interesting match. It was $200 on a pole match.
It was,
So let's talk through that a little bit, because you weren't the only guy. Well, clearly you weren't having a match with yourself, but you know, you were in that match with Cherry Stevens, yourself. You had Nikki Van Blair in your corner.
I did.
And I'm just trying to remember the other two that were in that match.
So it was Jay Sorbet and Nathan Pigeon. Most of us pretty much just call him Pidgey. He's a green dingo.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, it was a long night to try and remember everything. But Nikki Van Blair in the house. If everyone could just appreciate that man right there, what a legend. I don't know if you're talking about Rhys or me, Nikki, but we'll say thank you.
100% it will be me. 100%. I know Nikki.
So, the match that was on this Saturday, it was a really entertaining match. You guys really, tore the house down, man. How was it? Like, is that the first time you've done a match where you've had an object on a pole? Like, I'm not trying to sound dirty here or anything, but is there like a way that you have to, like, is there something that makes you prepare for a match differently, that like when you're discussing it backstage and when you're running through it, was it your first time having one of those matches, and how complicated is it to put together?
So it's really it's not my first pole match. So before we went into lockdown at Don't Call It a Cancel, we actually had a toilet roll on a pole match as well. So not only were we a bit scared how it would be perceived having a toilet roll on a pole when everyone was like jumping over each other to grab toilet rolls in the supermarkets, but we also were kind of a bit weary when I was like, there's $200 on a pole and there is also a schoolgirl in that match. It seems a bit, when she tweeted that out, I lost it. I saw that and I just lost it. But yeah, it's very different than a normal match. Pretty much a normal match, everyone's pretty much taught how to put from start to finish, how you wrestle it, how you go about it. But in a pole match, it's just like, it's nothing like you can actually prepare for. It's pretty much everyone just running for one point and just go, go, go.
That's amazing, man. Our chat's going off here. We got Hitman who's saying, "My God, Rhys is a beautiful man." We got Josh Tattersall in the house. What's up, buddy? Hope you're feeling better, man.
Yeah.
We got Kyle Ead in the house as always. We got Joshua in the house, guys. Thank you for your comments. Keep them coming through. We'll bring them up. But, you mentioned like it's a different animal going into a pole match, man. And I can almost see like, a couple of times it would be like, and I'm not saying your pole match specifically, but a pole match where you watch as a fan, you almost see like wrestlers like climbing up going, I don't want to go too fast. All right, no, I gotta take a second. Is that always playing in the back of your head, like when you're going up there, is like timing wise, like knowing also when someone's around you for the right moment and that sort of thing in that environment?
Oh, yeah, but I feel very much like that's what you're doing all the time when you're wrestling, especially myself being in a since being in PWA, especially like Black Label shows, any show that's been at max watts, I've specifically max watts. I've never been in a one-on-one match. It's always been either a multi-man match or I've been in a rumble, but predominantly something along the lines of like a four-way. Like since I've been on PWA, when I debuted at PWA roughly around July last year, I've been in four-way matches, like standard four-way matches, 2 pole matches, a rumble, and then, yeah, there's just been like a lot of tag matches as well. So you've always... Yep.
Do you see that a lot with, new guys coming in, that they put them in the multi-man matches as a way to sort of just give them a little bit of experience out there, but have other people there to sort of a little bit more experience to help guide them along the way and show them how it's done?
I'd say so. I can't speak for most people, but I know myself, like being in multi-man matches always it took a lot of the pressure off, because you know that you also have several other people, especially in a tag match. You've got another 3 people to bounce off of. You've got some time to just sit there and relax and think through everything.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously that's probably more of a good thing for those young guys coming in, because it gets to slow down for them a little bit, see how things are going. Whereas like in the heat of the moment, shit can just happen so fast. And I'm sure that you can miss so much, especially in that environment when you get the adrenaline going.
Exactly. Like the amount of times that, like at training, going through things at training with people that necessarily haven't had too much experience, like they panic, they stress doing things straight away. So you definitely see the pros rather than the cons of being in multi-man matches when you're first starting out on shows.
And now that you've done a year of it, how do you feel now going into those multi-man matches? Are you now the more experienced guy that is sort of helping these guys through that sort of stage?
Well, even especially at PWA, I'm still probably one of the people that's on shows that's the newest. There's, besides the Green Dingoes, and I think it's actually even besides the Green Dingoes, and even some of the Green Dingoes have been training for less time than me. And even if some of the people who are on PWA shows now haven't been on PWA shows as long, they've definitely been wrestling longer than me. Like if you look at someone like Back Pain, they're only just starting to get put on PWA shows now. But I know for a fact Backman's been wrestling for years, and so has Jack Payne. But I've only just started training like late February 2018. So still, when it comes to those matches, I'm still not one of the people that are like, okay, let's put them together. I'm still kind of the one that's trying to put in my opinion, see if what I have fits, and see if what I have will work in a match.
Oh, 100%. And you mentioned team back pain.
Yeah.
Just sort of starting to go onto shows now, and you mentioned both of them have been wrestling for a couple of years. Do you think it's because some people pick things up quicker than others, or do you think that in this situation it was more along the lines of, okay, we've got an idea for someone who looks like you, Rhys, has your sort of style, we're going to start putting you on shows? How does that process sort of come about?
I think when it comes to for someone so new being on a show so quickly, such as myself, like I think it just came to the fact that I was seen. As soon as I started training, I was there. You can only train 2 days a week when you first start. So you're there on Tuesdays and you're there on Saturdays. I was there every Tuesday. I was there every Saturday, every show. I was there from when we were packing the ring down on the truck at the training venue to putting the ring back at the training venue. And I was helping, and I would just go up to JT and just go, "Hey, JT, what can I do?" I would go up to anyone who was leading ring crew, "Hey, is there anything I could do?" Anytime I could be at training or I could be of assistance, I would do so. But that doesn't knock on other people for their wrestling capabilities and things like that. Like people at PWA just training, like a lot of the people now who have just started out, like you can already see stuff in them. Like when I was there was a handful of us. There was a big tryout. I think there was over 30 people in my tryout, and then maybe this time, well, from 2 years ago to now, I'm the only person that shows up from my tryout anymore. And I believe there was over 20 of us that got through. And then for the first year or two, there was about 3 or 4 of us left. And now it's just me. I think it's it's just consistency and keep going. And pretty much this is what I wanted. So I was like, I'm just going to do everything I can to get it.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I've said it before, but professional wrestling, the people that make it in the world of pro wrestling commit themselves wholeheartedly to it, and it's exactly like if any type of pro athlete is it's essentially can be a selfish life at times, because you have to be everywhere. You have to be at the shows, packing the rings down, do what you can to really get seen, but also put in work at training and show that you're developing there as well. And I think that's the thing, where people who really want it succeed in this business. And it's like anything, any pro athlete that succeeds is someone who just keeps pushing forward and doesn't give up.
Exactly. And I think anything from my past, whether it was like, besides wrestling, the only other thing that I've really ever been good at was sport.
Yeah.
So I would be playing football. I'd be playing AFL. I'd be swimming. I was a state athlete. Like it's having all those things in the past, showing the discipline. If you wanted it, you were there at training. If you wanted anything, you were working on it constantly. And that's what I always did for anything that I wanted, which was always anything to do with sport. And I think that just easily translated into wrestling without realizing the whole wrestling etiquette of you've got to work to get it. That was already ingrained in me.
Oh, 100%. But, pro wrestling wise, were you always a fan as a kid growing up? Was it, that always something that you said, what, this is something I wanted to do? Or were you like, I just want to be an athlete, whether it's a footballer, wrestler, AFL player, whatever it may be?
Well, when it came, like when I was growing up, my number one thing was like, I want to, like the only thing I was like, yeah, I always want to do is just be physical. Didn't matter what it was. I was always doing something. But the earliest full memory, the memory that I remember watching wrestling that made me kind of be like, okay, this is sick, was I think it was 2003 when Kane unmasked on Raw. That was like the moment that is ingrained in my head, because that scared me as a kid, because I'm like, what the hell is this? But I've been watching wrestling like for years before that as well, like ever since I was tiny. But the whole thing was my parents just refused to let me watch it. So I would jump on Fox 8 there. As soon as it comes on, grab the controller. Change the channel. I would do anything I could
And that shit just makes you want to watch it even more, doesn't it?
Exactly. And the fact that they were like trying to deprive me of it, I was just like, nah, I want it even more. And then I remember that one day, none of my parents were home and I was watching that episode of Raw and I saw Kane unmask. I'm like, this is terrifying, but this is sick. Ever since that day, I can just remember I was hooked. Like that was the first memory of me going, yeah, I want to do this. And then my first pay-per-view I actually watched live was like WrestleMania 20. So it still took a while for me to.
Dude, you're making me feel old, bro. Shit. Wow. I'm definitely feeling my age now, man. WrestleMania 20 was a great pay-per-view, though.
Oh, it was great. I just remember that being my first pay-per-view that I watched live because my parents would still refuse to let me watch it prior as well. I was like, can we get this? No, we can't. Can we? No. But even from then, my school library had like these old WCW books. So I really didn't know anything about WCW. And then I was reading these WCW books about all the cruiserweights. And then I would go down to like Video Easy or somewhere like that and then just try to grab any of the wrestling DVDs. And I was just like, yes, 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 yes. And then ever since then, I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy, man. You know, you mentioned the WCW and the cruiserweights, and one of the things like that stood out to me with you was your ring attire, because you know most of the time you see in pro wrestling now is like guys are either wearing long tights or short tights or you know a singlet. You wear like a full long sleeve top, and it's almost like a luchador-esque type outfit, but without the mask.
Yeah.
Was that something that really inspired you? Was the luchador style? Like, am I on a point there? Or am I completely like off top? Off.
No, like you're 100% right. Like growing up, like the wrestlers I watched were all high flyers or they were all luchadors. Like those were the guys that I was like, yes, I like your style. And it wasn't because I was like, I didn't like the Hulk Hogan style or anything like that. My whole thing was I was quite small.
Yeah.
Growing up, like even to this day, comparing me to anyone else in their heights and everything like that, I am still quite small compared to a lot of the people. And that was my whole thing. I was like, oh, I'm a lot smaller. I can't do all these stuff. So even if I was like wrestling around my brothers when I was younger, I couldn't like lift one of them up because even my younger brother, they're both massive compared to me. They're both huge. So I would have to like jump off stuff and jump and hit them. And then pretty much ever since then, I was like watching the Rey Mysterios, the Psychosis, like even Super Crazy back in ECW, like their styles. I was watching and I was like, I love it. And I just always loved gymnastics and things like that. And I'm watching their style. I'm like, if I jump on a trampoline, I can try to do like 450s. I can try to do like spirals and stuff like that. That's what just made me. It was the luchadors that kind of made me like, yeah, this is the coolest thing in the world.
Dude, I was probably like 11 or 12 when WCW was on TV, and I was the same way. Like I was transfixed because when I was younger, seeing professional wrestling was like Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, like, yeah, brother, the 24-inch pythons, you know, but like seeing some of the luchadors, which were guys that were just so quick, so skillful that I hadn't seen at that stage, I was automatically hooked. And I think a lot of, you know, younger generations of smaller guys who saw that have really sort of taken that on board. Like when I was younger, like I was a huge Taz fan because Taz was 5'7", 5'8". I'm 5'7", 5'8". I'm like, all right, well, he can be a badass. I could be a bad, you know what I mean? Like that was the mentality. And I think that, you know, when you can relate to something, you really take it on to another level. And I think that, as you said, you know, taking on, you know, seeing the luchadors and really and learning from that, being smaller and really connecting with that, I could definitely see that in your ring gear. You know, is that something like, obviously, do you try and want to see yourself? Obviously, you know, you've been wrestling for the past year, you were saying, but do you honestly see yourself going and doing more of the high flying stuff as your career goes on, or do you prefer to wrestle more of a mat base?
Oh, I prefer quick high flying. 100%. It's not that I don't enjoy mat-based wrestling. I just know myself, and I feel like if I was given if I was given a 2-day camp of just learning mat-based wrestling, I could probably pick it up. But if I was given 2 hours to learn a lucha drill or pretty much any lucha techniques, like I'd pick up as much as I would in 2 hours on lucha as I would on like 3 days on mat-based wrestling. So moving forward, I do want to implement more and more of a high-flying offense into a lot of what I do. But especially at the same time, during lockdown and when I started wrestling and when I started training, I was about 69 kilos. So I was like, okay, that's perfect for me to do a lot of the high flying stuff. But I've hit the gym. We've all been through lockdown, and that 69 kilos has now turned to 90 kilos.
Whoa.
So now the thing is, even trying to do a lot of the lucha stuff that I was doing, the extra weight hasn't hindered that. I can still jump as high as I can, if not higher. I can still get up on a leapfrog. It's all still there. But I feel like if I land on someone at 90 kilos as opposed to 69 kilos, that's gonna suck.
Yeah, but I think if you land on someone at 69 kilos, bro, you know what I mean? Once you're above that 50 keg mark, I think you're pretty much fucked from the get-go, my friend. But
pretty much.
But I think being able to still do that at 90 kilos, though, that clearly you've bodied has been really well proportioned out. So it's not like you've just sat there and smashed down a couple of Big Macs a day for the last 3 months.
Yeah,
you look like you're in good shape. You look like you've been training. As far as like your training regime for wrestling, obviously wanting to do more of the high flying stuff. Does that change the style of training that you do, whether it be for your fitness and in your conditioning?
Yeah, so the number one thing when I was training beforehand, I wasn't training to gain weight. I was just training to like look as cut as I possibly could before I was wrestling. Everything was just high reps, not heavy weight. But then I realized, look, I need to get something else on my body now that I'm wrestling. I need to get some padding. I need to kind of get that little bit extra. So I was like lifting heavy. Like I went from having like a real base level bench to getting real heavy for my size and my height. That was the same with pretty much all my lifts. I progressively just went and tried to go for strength rather than like I was just trying to pack on as much muscle as I could because I wanted my body to uphold with wrestling. I didn't want to have to be that real skinny guy who takes one bump and then gets really hurt.
Oh, 100%. And have you found like now where you're wrestling at 90 kilos, do you feel like healthier at that weight wrestling, or do you feel like you can put on a bit more?
I think 90 is the absolute max I'll hit. I've already started kind of like feeling the effects of being at 90 kilos because I'm just like, this is nuts. So hopefully by like maybe mid next year, I'll hopefully sit at about 85, but be a lot leaner and a lot more cut, but still want to have like the size to me. I still want to be able to have that strength to my name to be able to do all the stuff that someone my height isn't really known for doing.
Oh, absolutely. And, with starting pro wrestling, when you started at 69 kilos, how did you find getting in there and taking bumps? Like, was it what you expected it to be, or was it one of those things where you were just like, oh, fuck?
To be honest, like, I remember first starting training and I was like, I felt the ring out. I'm like, oh, okay, it is quite hard. It's not, I do the whole thing that what people do when they go to their first show. It's like, oh, is it really padded? Oh, it does have some, it is quite hard. I remember seeing, I think it was Caveman Ugg bump in it and it just made such a massive noise. And I think I was like, I am not going to make that noise. I don't know how I'm going to bump properly, but seeing it and hearing it like that is a lot scarier when you're about to do it. And then once you do it, you're just like, okay, it's not too bad. I feel fine. And then you wake up the next day and then you're like, oh, okay.
Car wreck.
I feel this.
Yeah. Well, they say going through a professional wrestling match is like being in a small car accident, depending on the car you're driving. Car crash. But yeah, depends who you're wrestling, or also depends what car you're in as well on how you feel. But how, like, as you started training, were your family supportive of it, or were they like, "Oh, this is some silly nonsense," or what were their thoughts on it?
So both me, as I said, me and my brothers, we used to like screw around when we were kids and pretend to wrestle each other and stuff like that. So my older brother even came with me to the tryout after mine. He got in and then he started training for a bit. He was just bombarded with work and stuff like that. Left, came back, and then left again. So I know my brothers, they love it. They support me 100%. Surprisingly, my mum, who hated wrestling, when I first started watching it, it maybe took her like a year and a half to come around. I can still remember to this day watching WrestleMania when Undertaker lost his streak. My mom was just like, "What the fuck is going on?" And like, she was at that point, I think she was just as invested in wrestling, if not more than me, when it came to certain people. Like, like hearing my mom talk about the Undertaker and stuff like that. It was just like, she went back and watched all the stuff.
You're like, who are you?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, why couldn't you be like this when I first started watching wrestling? But then I think my dad's still a little bit like, what is this? What are you doing? But then he'll still proceed to show all his friends and all his family friends, like all the photos from like the events and go, "Oh, look at this." And then he just goes, "Keep sending me more photos so I can show to them." And I'm like, "I can send you videos." Like, "No, I don't care about that. Just send me photos."
He doesn't want to see if you're getting hurt or not, obviously. Maybe.
If anything, if I tell him, "Hey, I probably got hurt in this match," he'll probably just be like, "Oh yeah, send it to me. I want to see that one."
Yeah, I want to have a good laugh.
Exactly.
But, oh man, look, it sounds like your family's very supportive, and you mentioned your mum, your mum's love for the Undertaker. So how is she feeling after Survivor Series? Is she doing okay?
Oh, she was just kind of like, I remember telling her, I'm like, "Oh yeah, by the way, Undertaker's this is gonna be like Undertaker's last thing that he's doing." And then she just looked at me and she's like, "If he was done, he would have been done a long time ago. He'll be back one way or another."
Wow.
So she's not believing it.
Fit a mark, bro.
A little bit, but only for like the Undertakers, and I think like the two that she absolutely loved was like Undertaker and Batista. Everything else, she's just kind of like, eh.
But if I asked your mum and said, "Hey, who's your favorite wrestler?" she's going to say Rhys Angel, right?
I doubt that. She'd go straight for Undertaker.
Oh, definitely Taker. Yeah.
Taker,
what about
Taker.
your son? He had a pretty good match at Peter. Nope, Taker.
No, Taker. What's Rhys ever done? Who's he ever beat?
Oh, wow.
That's what she'll say.
Jesus, your mum obviously has been listening to Cornette a hell of a lot too. So.
Yeah.
she's getting in on all the dirt sheets, bro. Shit. But now starting to do shows, for you, that moment of starting to go and get on shows and starting to performing in front of people. How was that feeling for you? Like, was that like nerve-wracking to say the least?
Oh, so my first ever match was a Rumble. I found out I was doing that Rumble, I'm gonna say like 5-6 hours beforehand.
Oh, great!
I was at training one time and I heard someone pulled out of a Rumble. Ricky South and Matty Wahlberg came up to me and they were both like, "Hey, you're not doing anything today, yeah? Do you want to come down and be in the Rumble?" I'm like, "I've got no gear. Like, I've got nothing ready." I was just coming back from an injury as well. I'd broken my foot and I'm just like, I don't have anything. Like, I don't have any gear. And then Wahlberg was just like, "That's okay. I'll give you some of my old one." So an old set of mine. So if you look at my first match, I'm wearing the gear that Wahlberg was wearing against his match, I think, with Jimmy Havoc. It's like his green gear. So I was wearing Wahlberg's old gear.
That's crazy. at least you still got to have that opportunity, man. To go out and to do it. And how'd you go in that first match?
Oh, I loved it, but as you were saying before, how I was before that match, I was terrified. I was like, as much as I'm like, I know I'm capable of doing all this stuff, that I was like, I can do it all, but like, I was just like, I've had 2 practice matches. So I was terrified. I was just like, oh, I don't know how it's going to go. And then I think after that, I think maybe even my first handful of matches that I was a little bit I was still had the jitters. I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to go. I'm still quite nervous. I think that kind of faded off being like super, super nervous after I had a match with Jax Jordan, one-on-one match with Jax Jordan. And then I felt very comfortable wrestling after that. The nerves are always still there, but like the whole, I'm real nervous to go out there and not scared, but like I'm a bit anxious. Was I think after my match with Jax Jordan, I was kind of put at ease, so I was more comfortable wrestling in front of a crowd since then.
Yeah, but I mean, even in that situation, it must have like you felt good knowing that they trust you to put you in that match to begin with, and saying, "All right, you're going to go out there and you're going to be in the Rumble, and don't worry about it. We're going to cover you. You're going to have gear. Go out there and do your thing." And to have that sort of support, was that sort of something that you was able to calm you down a little bit, or were you like,
yeah,
was it the complete opposite?
100%. Like I felt like it was both. It put me at ease going, okay, they trust me to do this stuff. But then at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to disappoint any of the guys that have backed me, any of the guys that have supported me. So it was kind of like, it brought the weight down, but then also kind of, I put the pressure back on myself.
Yeah. But even then, like, you know, like I've spoken to many, many wrestlers, and I always say, how was that first match? And I've never heard anyone say, it was the greatest match of all fucking time, dude. Like 5-star. Everyone just goes, man, it fucking sucked. And, you know, pro wrestling, like I said before, it takes a lot to do what you guys do in the ring. And to do it at a very, very high level, it's that next step up. And I think that, you know, with pro wrestling, no one's great at it straight off the bat. It's like no one just goes over to piano and starts playing Mozart. It takes time and dedication to get to that level. You know, like, you know, not everyone just comes out as that Mick Moretti level and, you know, and can do these amazing, crazy stuff straight off the bat. Like everyone takes time. And I think that that's probably where even the trainers and the people that back you understand that. So it's like, I don't think that even if you went out there and had an abysmal match, which I doubt you did, but I'm sure that it wouldn't have been a disappointment to them though.
Oh, I got feedback after the match and like, yeah, it was good. Everything you were doing was clean. Didn't look like you were really being dangerous in the ring. So I felt like just having the support and then everyone after going, yeah, it was good. Like it was a good like sort for your first outing, being in front of a crowd and everything. I was very happy with how it went. Once I got back out there, I was just kind of I was relieved, but at the same time, I was just like I was ecstatic. I was just happy.
Oh, 100%. And, you know, obviously to get that first one under your belt as well done, did that mean the next one coming up was a lot easier for you, though?
Yeah, and after that, like, actually, I would say that one, for maybe my first handful of matches, that one was probably one of my easier ones because it was a Rumble. There wasn't as much stress and as much focus on myself. And then we moved later on. I think I wrestled down at Newey at one of the Who shows. And that was like my first one-on-one match. After I got that one under my belt, that's when I was just kind of like, okay, now it's kind of setting back in. Like I can do this pretty much.
Who was that match against?
Brad Alexander.
Yeah. And how was the match? Was he a newbie as well at the time, or is he a veteran?
No, so Brad had been wrestling for a while before that. Like he's Will Keatis's old tag partner.
Okay.
So I knew of him and I knew what he was like, what he kind of did. It was a fun match, especially being one of my first ones. I was like, oh, they're not going to react to anything I do because they don't know me. But like the crowd was receptive. Everything felt good. And just to know that I could, like, I went there. I'm like, I didn't even really know a lot of the guys up from Newey all that much. I just kind of messaged one of them like, hey, if you ever need anything on a Who show, I'm available to do it. And then I got a message back like a week or two later going, yeah, sure. If you want to come down on this day, we'll get you against Brad Alexander. I'm like, sick. That's cool. Wow. So
how was the match?
It was fun. Like it was real good. And especially for being one of my first matches, I think it was actually one that I was actually more proud of when I first started. Like even to now, like I look back on that match, I'm like, yeah, it wasn't the greatest match of all time, but I was still very happy with how it went for just at what skill level I believe I was at.
Oh, and being your first singles match as well. Like if you can turn around, watch that, and walk away happy with it, that's the most important thing, and being able to learn something from it as well and walk away. But when you went in there and had that first singles match, was there anything that you walked away with going, oh, I didn't realize that, or you picked up anything from that match?
I think the main thing I picked up on from that match, I'm like, I went in there believing I wouldn't get any reaction. But the more that I was interacting with the crowd, the more I was looking up, the more I was selling, the more I was like looking at everyone and trying to get them to be invested in the match. That's pretty much what I learned from my first singles match. It's like you can't just wrestle a match like there's no one around you. You have to wrestle like there's people watching you, and you have to engage with everyone.
And do you think that some wrestlers find that hard to do?
Especially when you're first starting out, yeah. I think that's one of the main things that people forget when they're training. I know I definitely did when I first started, like doing little sequences, was you can't just go through motions and you can't just be like, oh, I've been hit in the face and just do this, because then you're covering half your face. You've got to just show them that you're hurt. You've got to make it like a big kind of, it's a big performance. You've just got to wrestle like people are watching you. Even if there's two people at training, you've just got to
always
act like you're in front of the crowd. Exactly.
Always be on. Always have that. So we got a question coming in from Joshua on the YouTube chat. He said, "What'd you do with the $200?"
So, like I said in the promo, that was going towards the Angels of Uruguay. So that's going straight to them.
So when I announced the interview, it got retweeted by your manager, Nikki Van Blair, and Nikki mentioned your love for the Angels of Uruguay. So what can you tell us about that? Because you know what, I had to ask because it did sound intriguing.
Yeah. So Nikki kind of hit me up going, yeah. So I know you're from Uruguay. I know that's what you like. You're going to be giving all the money to charity. Of course you are. So we're going to have to find a charity that you really believe in and that you'll be close to. Since you're from Uruguay, let's just donate it to the Angels of Uruguay. So he kind of helped me find it. I'm very passionate about the things they do because they help kids with doing things and stuff like that. But yeah.
They help kids with doing things and stuff like that. That is the most sketchy shit.
Exactly. Hey, it's not sketchy. It's 100% legit. 100% legit.
Yeah. Okay, man. Fair enough.
You can Google them, I'm sure, right, Nikki? You can Google them. They'll pop up.
Yeah. We'll ask Nikki about it when Nikki's on in a couple of weeks.
Fantastic.
But when you started training for pro wrestling, did you ever sit down and write down any goals for yourself on what you wanted to achieve and where you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I remember talking to my girlfriend at first about when I first started doing it, because she knew I liked wrestling. She never really knew that I wanted to do it. But then eventually she then figured out how much I really wanted to do it by how dedicated I was to going. And then after that, I kind of wrote down some things that I wanted to get done. And it was totally Googleable and legit.
Yeah, Googleable. And that's actually scary because that's probably going to be a dictionary word.
Oh, 100%. Anything Nikki says becomes legit. So, yeah. I wrote down things like, even if I ever had one match, I was happy. Everything after that was beyond. So when I first started, it was like, I want to just have a match. I want to have a match in front of a crowd and I'll be happy. And then everything else I do from there is pretty much a bonus. And then after I had my first match, I'm like, okay, cool. Here are the things I want to do next. I wanted to have like my first singles match, have my first singles win, be on a poster, kind of be in a main event, have a title shot, be in a rumble. Like it was kind of just like little bits and pieces here. And now that I've been wrestling on shows for just coming up to 2 years at the beginning of next year, Now it's kind of like, okay, my goals aren't even to just have a match. My goals are I want to wrestle these people. I want to go to these places to wrestle. It's just kind of changed from just like I'm just happy to be here to okay, now let's get serious.
Yeah. And who are some of the people that are on your list that you want to wrestle?
So I've had one of my first tag matches for FWA. It was myself and Kai Drake against Park Thomas and Ricky South. As much as I was like, okay, I got in the ring with Ricky, I was like, yeah, I'm happy with that. Now I want a one-on-one match with Ricky. He's hands down, in my opinion, the best wrestler in Australia right now. Ricky is phenomenal. There's nothing that the man cannot do. Watching him at training, like it's something else. He sees my height, he sees my size, and then he's like, okay, you try to do this. So even if we're just practicing stuff, me and Ricky at training will try to go 1-for-1 on something. So he'll try to do something, and then if I can't do it, just like sucked in. And then if I can do something that he can't, he'll show me 2 weeks later. He's like, "Oi, Rhys," he'll just do it and then go, "There you go, see, I can do it." Like,
very dedicated guy.
Yeah, the man just doesn't like to lose, and he just wants to be the best. He's having a one-on-one match with Ricky is just like my top tier of who I want to wrestle. One-on-one match with my body will regret it saying this, but a one-on-one match with Kai Drake.
Ooh.
I know how hard the dude hits. I've tagged with him, but a one-on-one match with him would be great. Matty Warburg. It's pretty much anyone who has helped me a lot. Coming up wrestling, the people who helped me significantly: Kai Drake, Matty Warburg, Ricky South. Those three, besides our actual trainers being Robbie, Madison, Mick, JT, Unsocial, Shaz, like they've all helped me so much. And I've already got the opportunity to even wrestle, even if it's in a tag match, with a lot of them. I've gotten to wrestle with Robbie in some capacity. I've gotten to wrestle against Shaz, Unsocial, Madison Eagles. Mick isn't on that list though, so I would like to wrestle Mick as well in one way, shape, or form. But going to the people who I think that I could always speak to and just say, hey, is there anything I can do to improve myself? Is there anything that I need to do to be noticed? Would be those three guys: Kai Drake, Ricky South, and Matty Warburg. If it was just within Australian wrestling, those are the three guys that I'd love to have a match with.
And let's open up the borders. COVID ends tomorrow. Well, I'm not going to say one because that's like a loaded question. So I'll give you three.
In Australia?
No, anywhere
Or
like okay,
anywhere in the world.
Let's head the three Australia ones.
Okay,
let's go worldwide.
If we were going worldwide,
baby.
My mates know I have a real big love for this dude. Surprisingly, I think I would get killed, but a match that ever since I started watching him wrestle this year, I've wanted 100%. That's Calvin Tankman.
Calvin Tankman.
He is an absolute unit. He's just a super heavyweight that just does absolutely ridiculous stuff. He wrestles a lot in GCW, and me and my friends watching a lot of GCW this year, just as they started coming back from COVID.
Is that Juggalo Championship Wrestling? Oh, GCW.
Yeah, Game Changer.
Oh, dude, I love Game Changer. I haven't seen him though. Calvin
Tankman is an absolute weapon. He's fantastic. He had a match with Chris Dickinson, and I remember watching that. I'm like, this is nuts. Kyle just said that there. Another guy in Australia that I would like to wrestle is Royce.
Royce Chain, good man. I like Royce.
Royce came down a couple times to PWA when we were doing these training camps, and I was just watching the stuff that he could do. I'm like, God, he's phenomenal. Like, I'd love to wrestle him. Another guy from JCW as well, who's just started making debuts on like New Japan, Blake Christensen.
Oh yeah,
he's ridiculous. Like my whole thing is I I like wrestling people who are a lot faster, a lot quicker paced. But then I also like going across the opposite end of the spectrum. Like I like wrestling quite large guys. Like the fact that my first ever PWA match, Matt Rogers was in there. I was like, yes. I like mixing it up with the big boys as well because I feel like the high flying slash small to large gimmick.
Yeah,
it's great.
Oh, 100%. You know who I'd love to see you have a match with, and I reckon it'd be an absolute burner, would be Jordan Oliver.
Yes.
Dude, like I've watched that dude for the last couple years, man, and he has just like, man, he is just like, fuck. And he's like so young too. He's like 20 years old or some shit.
Yeah.
Like he's something ridiculous like that. And yeah, man, that sort of style, I could really see you guys having an absolute burner of a match.
Yeah. Another guy that just came into my head as well, Ben Carter. Ben Carter is nuts. He's a bloke from the UK. He had a couple matches now on AEW.
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
After that, everyone was just like, pretty much like, this guy's the man. Just the stuff that he can do is unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
So, man, like, you know, you seem to know a fair bit about indies around the world. You know, obviously places as well. So, you know, obviously if you had an open flight where you could go anywhere in the world and wrestle, where are some of the places that are on your destination to go?
I feel like when it comes to this is going to sound real strange, but I quite like the wrestling here in Australia. There's a few places international that I think I would go, like having a lot of those guys that I mentioned before being at GCW, even though I'm not much of a deathmatch wrestler and I'm not a massive, I don't think I will ever do that. But being somewhere like Game Changer purely for the guys that are there, I'd love to wrestle there. But then there's just there's still a lot of places here that I haven't even touched. So before I even think about extending myself going overseas, I want to go down to places like EPW, train down there, wrestle there. I just pretty much want to wrestle anywhere and everywhere I can in Australia. And then once I feel like, okay, I've got enough experience and I feel like I can take myself to different places and I have stock behind my name, then I'll be like, yeah, that's when I'll start trying to branch myself out overseas, especially once all this COVID stuff's going down. Because I know the places I'd love to go would be the US and the UK. And right now, that's not the safest place to be.
Oh, dude. Yeah, no, absolutely not. But I get you, man. Like the Australian wrestling scene, you know, pre-COVID and also post-COVID is just absolutely amazing. Like there's some amazing talent there. Like, you know, you look through the list of the names, you know, from, you know, Jessica Troy, Charlie Evans, you know, Mick Moretti, Matty Wahlberg, yourself, you know, the prefix, you know, Jimmy Townsend, you know, and guys like that. Like you guys just have like a rich array of talent, and it's such, you know, it's an amazing thing to sit and watch. And I mentioned this previously in one of the episodes I've done. After the first PWA show I went to in a long time, which is wrist locks and pile drivers.
Yeah.
I came home that night and I had a friend of mine from the US message me and goes, "Hey, how was that Aussie wrestling show?" And I told him, I was like, pardon me, I told him, I was like, dude, that is one of the best wrestling shows I have seen anywhere, like from any promotion. Like that was phenomenal. And he was like, dead set. And I was like, dude, go over to ovoplay.com and subscribe for $10. Man, I feel like Ovo Play should pay me some money the amount of times I'm fucking getting them sponsors, getting them.
Just get a sponsorship from them. Just have like a referral URL and just like, yeah, go through here, use this code. There you go. Do the whole Manscaped gimmick.
Yeah, type in shit and get your 10% off. There you go. We should try it. But no, dude, like, and that's the thing. Like, I stand by that statement where Australian wrestling is at a very, very high level right now.
Yeah.
And, you know, the people involved in it just keep on getting better and better per show. So,
yeah. Like, the fact that, like, yeah, like you were saying, Australian wrestling, especially PWA, like I said before, I think it was the New Japan show. Before the New Japan show that they had, at Homebush here in 2018, I was oblivious to anything Australian wrestling related. The most I'd ever seen was a couple shows down at like Supernova when they had the ring there and they would have a couple matches. And that's the big ironic thing about that is because I have seen a couple of those shows, maybe 2016, stuff like that. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to bother watching these guys. But there was a couple guys there. I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch it. And I was watching it and I'm like, okay, this is cool. I eventually turns out one of the guys I was watching is someone who I'm real good friends with now, which is Kai. I was watching him and I had no idea who he was like 2 years before I met the dude.
Wow. Look, man, like I think there's good wrestling out there and there's bad wrestling out there. Just like there's good wrestlers out there working, like there's bad wrestlers out there working, and it's, you know, you definitely can find it. And I think that Australia is really sort of starting to be recognized on a worldwide level of some of the talent we have. You know, you're seeing more talent getting signed internationally, but even a lot of talent locally that want to stay here and take Australian wrestling to the next level.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's another reason besides, because this year I think was the year that I was like, okay, maybe if I can go to different places and train there and then see what I can learn from other places and then adapt it in my style, adapt it in how I wrestle. I think I'm kind of now thankful in a way that we were able to stay here, because there's a lot of things that, especially during this lockdown, that I've learned, because even if we weren't at the academy, because we couldn't, because of restrictions, we were all online. We were watching a match, dissecting it, talking about it, going, okay, what can you learn from this match? What are some things in this match that you can learn? It's not just now the actual in-ring stuff that we can be like, okay, go do this and learn how to do this. We're learning all the psychology. We're learning everything that I feel someone in wrestling needs to learn. And we didn't even need to do it in an academy. We were just on a Zoom call and we're just like, okay, cool. Like, let's watch some wrestling and let's dissect it, or let's talk about promos. Let's talk about ring gear. Like, during lockdown has been so beneficial because it gave our bodies a rest, but so many of us still learned so much.
Keeping the mind pumping and thinking about, okay, what can I do? Change it up time. It's like we can't do shows for a while. So, you know, let's take a moment to, you know, relax, rest our bodies, but learn some of the stuff of like the psychology side of things. And, you know, how do we increase our social media aspect and, you know, change our bodies? What training can we do and stuff like that? And it's definitely, you've seen it in, I think, wrestling from the Australian level. They're seeing the condition that everyone was in when they came back, from seeing how like the level of wrestling that was happening was just on point. And I think that sometimes the rest is always needed.
Exactly. Like the fact that we all got to have a little bit of a break and like, okay, now we're even more hungry to get back in there and do what we want to do. And like, we don't hold back. Even though our thought is, oh, there's only 50 people in the crowd. Yeah, but there's so many more people watching online. We're just gonna we just go all out and we just want to do what we want to do. And what everyone at PWA wants to do is wrestle and just put on a great show.
Oh, and that's exactly what you do, my friend. Yeah, you know, I have not been disappointed at a show since. Like, you guys put on an amazing show. But guys, I do want to start wrapping it up. Rhys has been with us for just that 1 hour mark. But Rhys, where can everyone find you? Where can they support you, buy your merch, follow you on social media? Can you give us a quick bit of info on that?
So a lot of my handles are just Rhys Angel. On Instagram and Twitter, I believe both of them are Rhys Angel. I'm also on Twitch, and hopefully next year I shall be streaming a lot more, whether it's just random chats, playing games with a bunch of the mates that I usually play with, like Referee Nick and a couple of the other guys who I know have just been writing comments in here, just being themselves. Shout out to the Burrito boys. But yeah, we'll just be on Twitch at Rhys Angel again. And also on Wrestler merch. I've just dropped a new shirt the other day, and that will be on my page at Wrestler merch.
Absolutely, man. We'll get those links off Rhys, and we'll post them up on our social media as well to give you a plug and absolutely get that out there for all of our viewers. Rhys, thank you so much for coming on and being a guest. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, man.
Please, you've got an open invitation, dude. Anytime you want to come back on, man, you just let me know. Happy to have you on. Also, guys, just want to thank everyone for tuning in and watching tonight. Really appreciate everyone for taking time out of their day to come and check out our show and to check out our interview with Rhys. It's been a great lot of fun. And guys, please, just another mention of our sponsors, A-Rock Design, Signal Studios. Please go and check those guys out. And guys, until next time, I'm Piers Austin. That's Rhys Angel, and we'll see you in a week.